Good morning to those joining us from the Americas, and good afternoon to our colleagues in Europe. Welcome to today's webinar, Financing Urban Forests, How Cities Are Leveraging Carbon Credits for Greener Futures. This session is part of the European Union-funded International Urban and Regional Cooperation Program within the Nature-Based Solutions thematic network. A warm welcome to our audience from our network cities and participants from outside our network. We're happy to have you with us today. Over the past 2 years, exchanges in the thematic network of nature-based solutions have covered topics such as food policies and urban agriculture, regeneration and nurturing of abandoned sites, heat island mitigation, flood management, river rehabilitation, and other solutions to reduce risks from extreme climate events. My name is Susana Arellano. I'm the Deputy Team Leader for IURC North America, and I will be your moderator today, supported by my colleagues Eva Vila and Callum Boland from the IURC team. Today, we're excited to highlight a topic that represents an emerging area of activity for cities. We will be joined by a pioneering leader in this field who will share valuable insights from their experience. This session is designed to be interactive, providing an opportunity for all participants to engage actively and delve deeper into how you can further your own initiatives in this domain. To do so, we have enlisted a discussant from one of our network cities, and we will encourage you to participate, ask questions, and explore practical steps to advance your work related to today's focus. Cities are increasingly making use of voluntary carbon markets as a means to amplify the impact of their conservation investments. By engaging in these markets, municipalities are able to secure additional funding for conservation initiatives. While some cities have already adopted operational strategies to integrate voluntary carbon markets into their broader sustainability efforts, others are in the process of experimenting with innovative approaches to determine what works best for their unique local context. This webinar will provide an in-depth look at how one city has approached working with voluntary carbon markets. Participants will gain insights into the practical steps taken by the city, the types of organizations that can offer support in these efforts, and the critical considerations cities must address when starting out on this path. By exploring a real-world example and available support structures, attendees will be better equipped to understand how their own cities can embark on a similar journey towards leveraging voluntary carbon markets for conservation and sustainability goals. I have a few housekeeping notes before we begin. This session is being recorded. We will be posting the recording, presentations, and a summary fact sheet on our website so you can sit back and just listen to our excellent speakers and discussant. Second, to keep things simple, at the bottom of the right side of your screen, you will find the chat. This will be our main communication tool where you can reach us and pose questions. I will moderate them throughout the discussion. And to get started, I would like to know who is connecting and where you're connecting from. So feel free to add it in the chat. Now, to get us started with a few remarks and context, I am pleased to introduce Monica Norcute, Policy Officer at the EU Delegation to Canada in Ottawa. Monica, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Susanna. Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the European Union, it is my pleasure to welcome you to this final webinar of the IURC 3 Nature-Based Solutions series, and actually I think the final webinar of the program itself. As you may know by now, after 3 years since the project has been implemented, the European Union promotes nature-based solutions as practical, cost-effective ways to work with nature to address environmental and social challenges. By bridging more green and blue spaces into our cities, landscapes, and coastlines, these solutions help manage climate impacts, support biodiversity, and strengthen local communities. They are also an important part of major EU strategies, including the European Green Deal and the Biodiversity Strategy for 2030, which focuses more on building a more sustainable and resilient future. Cities, once again, and it's not news, are especially important in this effort. Urban forests, green roofs, and community gardens can reduce flooding, improve air quality, and enhance people's well-being, creating healthier spaces to live, as Susanna just mentioned. There's also growing interest in voluntary carbon markets. While not a standalone solution, of course, they offer one additional tool that cities may use to track and potentially support the climate efforts as part of a broader sustainability approach. So today, you will hear more about concrete solutions, standards, and policy frameworks from the municipalities. And I'm very happy to have Chandra Farley from the city of Atlanta and Leslie Campbell from the city of Toronto. And I believe that both cities are actually pioneers in addressing the challenges and proposing solutions. So very happy to have the perspective both from the US and Canada here in this European funded program webinar. So I will use this opportunity and thank all the cities, partners, and experts of the IURC3 who have contributed to this journey since July 2023. And we hope that today's session will inspire you to explore new tools, deepen cooperation, and continue pushing the boundaries of what cities can achieve together. And I hope that with most of you will continue doing this under the EU Cities Gateway program, which has just started. Thank you all, and I wish you all an engaging and productive discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Monica, for your remarks and for joining us today. Now we're moving with the city of Atlanta in the US, who has been cooperating for the past 2 years with the city of Sofia in Bulgaria. One of their main areas of cooperation has been exactly on the topic of urban forest management. During the cooperation, we listened to John Seidel's presentation, and we knew that it would be very valuable for other cities in our network to hear from Atlanta's experience. Unfortunately, we couldn't count today with John because he is on jury duty, but I'm very excited to have another speaker, which is amazing, and that's Chandra Farley, our Chief Sustainability Officer at the Mayor's Office of Sustainability and Resilience from the City of Atlanta. Thank you, Chandra, for accepting the invitation to share your experience with a broader cohort of cities. So if you want, we can move towards the next slide and you can start your presentation.
That sounds great. Thank you so much, Susanna and Monica. It's good to see so many familiar faces. It's been, I can't believe we're at the end of our time together, but I can also believe we're at the end of our time together. So time, I think, for me in municipal government certainly moves fast and slow at the same time. So I am going to share my screen. Susanna, I don't know if you have like the most updated. I don't know. So
we have,
oh, go
we
ahead.
are happy if you want to share your screen. That's totally
Okay.
fine. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, perfect. So as was mentioned, my Deputy Chief Sustainability Officer, John R. Seidel, has been deep in the work of this program, and he came back from paternity leave, which we were very excited about, and straight to jury duty. So I think that this might be only an American phenomenon. I'm not sure, but sometimes you get called. Every resident or citizen of a certain age gets called for jury duty, like through voter registration records. And sometimes you get a notice and you have to call the night before, and they will let you know if you're in a certain group, whether you actually have to show up or not. And then if you actually show up, then you kind of sit throughout the day to see if you get called. Well, he got called for an actual trial, so it's been going on for almost 2 weeks now, and you kind of only get updates day to day. So Susanna, if you could just remind me how much time I should plan for, and I won't be able to see the chat or anything when I'm sharing my screen, so feel free to interrupt me.
Yeah, no worries, Chandra. You have around 10 minutes, but we will also continue the discussion along with Leslie. So don't worry that much around about time. We also will be managing the chat, and if we have any questions, I will just mention them to you. So don't worry about managing everything.
Okay, fantastic. Well, I'll get started, and fitting today, I'll go back to this. This is our city in a forest, as Atlanta has been lovingly called. And we are managing losing some of that tree canopy, largely to development. I'll talk about some of our tree canopy goals and some of the nuances here in Atlanta. Just one, the large percentage of our tree canopy that is on private lands. So that is certainly something that we deal with here. This is our team, and happy to.
And sorry
Yeah,
to interrupt you. Could you put your presentation in presentation mode so that we can see it full screen?
I see it in presentation mode.
Oh, we don't. We are seeing your PowerPoint.
How about now?
You're not sharing your screen.
Can you see that?
We see the PowerPoint. Yeah, but we see the whole. Oh, okay.
Now, do you see it full screen?
No, we don't. I see that you clicked, but we don't. Is it okay if we share the presentation we have, and if there are any adjustments, you can mention it?
Certainly.
Okay, sounds good. Eva, can you share your screen? Thank you. Next one, can we go to the team
Yeah,
slide?
you can
Yeah, thank you.
keep going. So I will talk briefly here just about our mayor's vision for the city. When I read this vision and when I was coming into this role, this vision to me, which is something very important to our office, is that our work is rooted in environmental justice. And so when you any community-based organization, environmental conservation or environmental justice organization or climate justice organization is talking about safe, healthy, connected neighborhoods. So, okay, well, next slide. So you can see here, coming into this role, give our mayor a lot of credit for reestablishing our office as an independent office. And so when I had the opportunity to rewrite our charter, rooted in environmental justice is something that is here. And that is certainly related to a number of the co-benefits that we have prioritized communicating out and focused on as a part of the carbon credits program. Next slide. So here you have our overarching sustainability and resilience goals. We are actually just at the end of an 18 plus month long process of community engagement, interdepartmental engagement on updating our goals. And so one of those items that I can share back in the final presentation that will get circulated is what our climate resilience action plan framework looks like. And so that framework was built from that like 18 plus months of engagement. And just last month, well, technically, we never really wrap up community engagement. That's always ongoing. But the official 6-month engagement period to inform the city's first climate resilience action plan. So we have a number of plans across our city and departments. So we are a mayor's office. So the way our city is set up is sort of for easy policy is, mayor's offices, operating departments that deliver municipal services, like on a trash, recycling, police, fire, parks and recreation, who's our partner on this project, are operating departments. So as we set policies, plans, and targets, find opportunities for new innovations, we work in partnership with our operating departments to advance these goals. So our tree-related goals for the city are really operationalized across our Department of Parks and Recreation, where our arborist division is, and our Department of City Planning, which has led an update of like our tree protection ordinance, deals with all the zoning related to that. Next slide. So why? So I started in this role about 3 years ago, and in one of my first meetings with John R. after my appointment, before I started, I was like, okay, what are the priority things that you have been working on or really excited about working on? And that is when I first learned about the city's efforts around the carbon credits program. This opportunity was brought to us by the city's land acquisition partner, which is the Conservation Fund. So they work with the city to acquire land, which then in turn the city is able to purchase either through like our tree recompense fund or other mechanisms to protect our city proper urban forest green space. So this was an opportunity to show innovation on how to generate revenue for other sustainability projects. The city's never sold credits before. So that innovation, climate resilience, and equitable access to green space is critically important. And a lot of this around stormwater management, air quality, all the benefits that we understand that are key with protecting our urban forests and our green space. And also what we are doing with the revenue, with the fees that we are paying out, which we can talk about, but also the revenue that we will generate come from what's called the city's Sustainable Projects Fund. This was established a number of years ago, but the primary objective is like a green revolving loan fund. We are able to pay out the fees to City Forest Credits, who I'll talk about as our partner. And you can go on to the next slide, Susanna, and pay the fees to our third-party verifier, which is our local tree protection organization, Trees Atlanta. And then once we're able to actually establish and implement the process to sell the credits, we worked with our Department of Parks and Recreation to set up an MOU between our office and their department, where a certain percentage of the revenue will stay with the Mayor's Office of Sustainability and Resilience and go into the Sustainable Projects Fund. And a larger portion, I believe we did like 60-40, will stay with the Department of Parks and Recreation for the stewardship and maintenance and upkeep, and helping get a number of these sites now that we have that aren't even open to the public yet. So there's a lot of work to be done. There was a lot of conversation around, okay, what portion of dollars can we use for trails and that sort of thing. So what you see here, and you can go onto this page, I believe there's a link in the presentation. If certainly not, we'll make sure. But this is our first pilot, Lake Charlotte Nature Preserve. And so this was a recent, to me, acquisition that the city and DPR and our partners in Conservation Fund. And this is when we got introduced to City Forest Credits and started moving towards this process. So actually with Lake Charlotte, we may have already received, I need to check the update. We had 3 sort of cycles with which credits were going to be verified and generated. And so we are through those 3 cycles for the first project, and are now working through our sales process. Next slide. And so this is the process, which was we had to get a lot of buy-in for as a municipality, to work on this 40-year preservation protocol with CFC. Our city, I imagine many others, are not committing to things that are 40 years long. But that was a requirement. We had to have a set of deed restrictions on the property. So you can see here the preservation protocol for city forest credits, which is critically important to make sure that we've got good verified credits that we can be certain that we will be able to sell then on the market. And so we learned a lot through this process with Lake Charlotte, and had pretty much just gotten started when we were presented with the opportunity, again in partnership with our Parks and Recreation Department, who really became a big champion for this effort, and within our Department of Law, to start expanding the program. Next slide. And so this talks about how we are scaling up. We've got 4 new sites that are preserving over 200 acres. That was the size of Lake Charlotte, essentially, on its own. It was about 216 the preserve itself. So we've talked about the environmental and community benefits. It's an opportunity, again, to show how not only are we scaling our urban forest conservation efforts, but again, demonstrating we're always looking for dollars for our projects, right? And getting connected to, for us, to those municipal operating department budgets who have more regular. And so this is just a really innovative opportunity for us to demonstrate for our city and groups like these. And again, the strong partnerships is a critical piece, again, particularly with our internal departments. That is we don't own any land as a mayor's office. I don't have purview over any buildings. So when I talk about, we have the largest municipal solar program in the state, and we have solar on 41 of our municipal buildings. Well, that solar is on our recreation centers that is owned by Department of Parks and Recreation. That solar is on our fire stations, our public safety headquarters, at the airport, which is the Department of Aviation. So if you've ever flown into Atlanta's airport, that is a City of Atlanta department. And so that is how we're able to work in partnership to deliver these innovative financing and project funding mechanisms, and also advance our sustainability and climate resilience goals in a way that's not only setting out the plan, but actually demonstrating and testing how we can actually bring those things to life. Next slide. And so this is just some mapping areas of the 4 additional projects that I mentioned, and how they were purchased. Next slide. And so the 2 sites had 2 different sort of purchasing models that the city uses to protect green space. So that's just another way that, with expanding the project and scaling the project, we were able to also demonstrate more clearly, I think, and more transparently when we talk about these projects, how the city's land acquisition processes work as well, because that becomes a part of the narrative that we talk about, much in the same way we are sharing that with you all today. So this is an overview of sort of some of the snapshot of some of the documents that we have to submit to CFC, and also sort of what the breakdown looks like. So those upfront costs are, you can see there, the application fee, the credit issuance fee, and the validation and verification fee. This is where we use one of our third-party community partners, Trees Atlanta. So we actually contracted with Trees Atlanta to help us with that validation and verification. There's processes for that. So our team really looks like city forest credits, my office, Department of Parks and Recreation, Department of Law, Trees Atlanta, and then simultaneously Department of Procurement and our procurement attorneys, because this is something we've never done before at the city. So it's really been great to have the support of these departments who are willing to help us sort of figure this out, because we understand the long-term benefit. Next slide. Let's, yeah, that's similar to what I just described. I talked about our Solar Atlanta program, and next slide. And so this is also, when I talk about this process, when we are able to, with the city forest credits and this carbon credit program, not only piloting how the city can generate revenue from selling carbon credits, but also renewable energy credits, because also for the first time, we have been working with a particular solar project developer since its inception, and since the inception of the policy within our state about 8 years ago, that allowed us to use this solar energy procurement model, which allows us to not pay any upfront costs and just pay for the amount of solar that we produce over a 20-year lease term. So, of course, we've been generating renewable energy credits over the years as well, but the city did not actually have ownership of those credits. So that is one of the first things that I also worked on, to make sure that we had ownership of those credits so we could sell those. But as far as the process for us at the city, as a blanket term, we refer to those as environmental attributes. So now our contract with our solar energy developer refers to environmental attributes. Any sort of legislation and the procurement code changes that we have had to go to refer to environmental attributes, and that covers carbon credits and renewable energy credits. So we didn't want to like do a process for this thing and then do a process for this thing. So that's one of those. Always great to have lawyers or a legal team who are ready to support us in the path of least resistance in these innovative projects. Next slide. Yeah, so I can talk about, when we're ready, a little bit deeper dive into city forest credits, but look forward to the discussion.
Thank you so much, Chandra. I know if you want to add anything, because I know that you had updated the presentation that we had, then yes, please go ahead.
So I did talk about our, one of the things I had added in definitely was to talk about our climate resilience action plan framework. That is, when I came into this role, we had a lot of plans. We have a lot of plans, don't we, at all of our cities. And so the last sort of the flag of what we've been flying for sustainability and clean energy has been our goal to achieve 100% clean energy by 2035. That plan was passed in 2019. It was written to be updated every 3 years in alignment with our utility regulatory planning cycle. But understanding how the context of the world has changed as we all learn from each other, we really wanted to make sure, and it was really important to me, that we weren't just focused on that sort of one vertical of clean energy, but that we were taking a broader view of climate resilience, which, so that framework, not only did we, oh gosh, let's see. I mean, literally, I was going to show you the slide. I mean, we've gotten close to 2,000 community recommendations just over the last 6 months, because not only did we know what our priorities needed to be, we engaged our operating departments and community at large to help us. What does this need to look like for the city? What are you experiencing related to climate in your neighborhoods? So we also worked with Fannie Mae, prior to this current administration, to work with us on identifying what are Atlanta's climate perils. We never had a comprehensive climate risk and vulnerability assessment before, which we are just completing and will be presenting in 2 weeks to our community. But we had this baseline from the work that we did with Fannie Mae. And so for City of Atlanta, our top 3 climate perils are extreme heat, flooding, and drought. And so extreme heat, how we're mitigating the urban heat island effect, and how we're protecting that tree canopy, which has great impacts on air quality, as we know, but also on utility costs and keeping buildings and homes cooler in certain areas. We have an equity data tool for our Parks and Recreation Department, which shows us the areas where we need more green space presentation or preservation. So that is really, but for all of those recommendations, every 5 or so, and we know this as well, is how are we going to fund these projects? So this city forest credits and this carbon credit program pilot is giving us an opportunity to multi-solve. If you've ever heard of Elizabeth Salwin, who has come up with the sort of framework around multi-solving, because we know when we're addressing sustainability and climate resilience goals, we are solving for a multitude of things, from emissions to public health.
Thank you so much, Chandra. And it's very interesting that you wanted to mention that. I really appreciate it, because as I was looking into city forest credits, it was very interesting to me how they have kind of their scorecard, which I can share my screen as well so that the audience can see it. Let me put it up here. And how it's not only about the actual, can you see it?
Yes.
Yes, okay, perfect. It's not only about the actual forest, let's say, or trees that you have, but how it really affects human health, social equity. And I love how they are actually tying these to other projects and how it has an impact in the city. So it has to do also with investors, or the ones that are buying the credits, to know that this has a broader effect. It's not only about expanding green spaces, but how does this have many other consequences around these other aspects, which are critical. So I really like how you're linking both things. And I know that we have other cities in the audience that are trying to do the same thing. So I would like to invite them also to participate in the conversation. And we will open the section for discussion with the City of Toronto. And the reason is because Toronto City Council has adopted the offset credit policy to govern their approach for achieving net zero corporate emissions in 2040. This policy clarifies the net of net zero by defining whether and how the corporation will purchase and or sell carbon offsets in a science-based, fiscally responsible manner in support of the net zero goal. Also, the Toronto City Council is working to secure innovative financing for forest management to increase its tree canopy and is looking towards ongoing maintenance and stewardship, which can be financially challenging, as many of the cities that are here know already. Because of these efforts, we have invited Leslie Campbell, Policy Officer at the City of Toronto, to begin with a brief overview of how the City of Toronto is approaching this topic, the challenges it faces, and to open the discussion by posing the first question for Chandra. If Leslie, you want to take the floor.
Sure. Thanks so much, Susanna. And thank you also, Chandra, for sharing such an inspirational and comprehensive overview of the work that the City of Atlanta is doing. I mean, I think you said it best when you said that like these are multifaceted problems and the solutions are also going to be multifaceted. So thanks for sharing today. Um, and as Susanna shared, then yeah, Toronto City Council has adopted the offset credits policy, and the City of Toronto has also recently adopted a 10-year circular economy roadmap, which marks kind of a milestone in rethinking about how we consume and manage resources in this context. And in addition, Toronto has approximately 11.5 million trees covering about 28% of the city. And there is the goal within the city to reach 40% tree cover by 2050. And like Atlanta, and like you shared, Chandra, we recognize that while tree planting gets attention and funding, then this piece around ongoing maintenance and stewardship can be a challenge. The city in 2025 invested about $92 million in urban forestry. And with our extensive ravine system, Toronto is sometimes called a city within a ravine or a ravine city. We have about 11,000 hectares of ravine space, representing about 17% of the land area of the city. And so, with that amount of ravine space, then the long-term stewardship costs are significant. And the city has quantified that our ravines alone provide around $822 million in annual ecosystem services, including about $2.4 million in carbon sequestration. Yet securing dedicated revenue streams for their protection can be a challenge. And so that kind of brings me to my questions. In diving a little bit deeper in your presentation, Chandra, you mentioned that kind of maintenance and stewardship funding is sometimes overlooked, and that really resonates, or sometimes a challenge, and that resonates with Toronto's experience. Are you able to share any specifics on the kind of revenue generation per acre or per site? And specifically, I'm curious kind of how that compares to the ongoing stewardship costs over the 40-year commitment for the project. And have you reached a point where the program is financially self-sustaining or generates surplus revenue that can support other sustainability initiatives? You mentioned that split between kind of the Office of Sustainability and Parks and Recreation, and was wondering if you could speak a little bit about the economics there.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Leslie. That city in the ravine is I love that. It's related to our city city in the forest. And appreciate you mentioned, I was actually typing in the chat, so you got to the question, that appreciating that Toronto has quantified those co-benefits. That is making the economic case across everything is so critically important as we continue educating and building awareness around these initiatives. And that is one of the things that I really, Susanna pulled up, and I had that the slide of that is so important. And it will be in the updated presentation that we can circulate, where I've got a clip of summary numbers from our city forest credits quantification calculator. So we have, let me get down to
do you want to share it, even if we see the PowerPoint system behind,
yeah.
just so that we can see the numbers? Because I think that will be more helpful for cities to look as we were speaking.
Okay, let's
yeah, that's perfect.
Okay, so you can see the table here, what we are expecting, and then you can see here in the smaller chart, Leslie. I think this is what you were getting to, where it lists out the ecosystem services and the value, the expected value there. So that's been, I think we are still learning, and so we are, as far as how this is informing us moving forward. I think we're at the point like, wow, this is a great process. It's giving us a lot of great data for learning. How will we actually see that manifest in those costs with Department of Parks and Recreation? Because when we first created that MOU, I was like, wow, I should have bargained harder with our Parks and Rec commissioner for a little bit bigger percentage of what those dollars we expect, which just for Lake Charlotte Nature Preserve was expected to be, I don't think that's on this slide per se. But about, potentially, $1 million, let me just round up, from Lake Charlotte. And that will depend on when we're able to actually get in the market, of course. So a couple of different things there, but back to Department of Parks and Recreation. So when we created that MOU and started this program, or started working through developing this program 3 years ago, conditions were very different. We did not have an Office of Natural Resources within Department of Parks and Recreation. So that was some community advocacy, community partnership advocacy that was really pushing for the city to establish a Department of Natural Resources. And so what has been building, which may ultimately build towards that, is an Office of Natural Resources within Parks and Recreation. And that is now who we are working with directly. The folks we were working with before are now in this new office. We have a new director of natural resources. So I think we'll have some, really start to get into the weeds of those numbers. But you'll have these here in the slides. And I know that Deputy Seidel would love to get into the weeds of any of these numbers with you.
Thanks
Thank you,
very
Chandra.
much. Oh,
No, go ahead, Leslie. Go ahead.
can I ask a follow-up question?
Yes, of course.
The other thing that stood out to me was the duration of this kind of program and agreement and partnership. 40 years is a long time, as you mentioned on city timelines, and I was struck and curious if that kind of 40-year time commitment was a challenge to kind of navigate and negotiate. How did you go about kind of getting that in place to secure a 40-year commitment for city-specific land?
And I think we have a very similar question just to complement the one from Leslie. So in this 40-year process, do you have to be recertifying so it will keep on being kind of something that the department will have to follow up on? Or is it just like live it up on its own now way throughout those 40 years?
Sorry, lost my screen there. So yes, to Leslie's question, big hill to climb on getting that amount of years approved for this. And so this is just where a lot of this kind of listening tour, talking to the commissioners, talking to our executive office, having the mayor's support around doing innovative things. And also having the support of the city's land acquisition partner, the Conservation Fund, who was the original connection to this idea, and city forest credits themselves. So having that level of weight for buy-in to say, yeah, I know this is out of the ordinary, but this is really innovative. This will be the first time we've ever done this. Yes, it advances our climate resilience goals, but man, it's going to make us some money too for, for help we really need on maintenance and stewardship. So we have to, once you get the buy-in, then we have to do a lot of work with our Department of Law on that. And then I think maybe you said, maybe Vanessa, or a question from the chat, that the reporting is ongoing, and that is supported by city forest credits. But after that, so for Lake Charlotte, I think we're going to move into the fee table that I showed you. We have those upfront costs, but some of those costs, especially related to when we get to the point of sale, we don't pay to CFC until we get to the point of sale, is what I'm trying to say. So there's some upfront cost on the application, the verification, the third party validation. We have those costs. And then we have another tranche of costs to CFC at the point of sale. So at each credit issuance term cycle, which is essentially annually, has been for Lake Charlotte over the 3 years that it was going to take to generate the full tranche of credits. There's that reporting that we have to provide to them for them to be able to say, okay, yes, we verify this and we're issuing the credits. So as far as if that is the exact same reporting that we will do, because at that point the sale will be complete, we will have sold, those credits. I'm expecting that it might look a little different, but we just haven't gotten to that yet.
What's your timeline, Chandra, to start seeing kind of how these evolves? Because I know in the beginning you had from year 1 to year 5. So I'm assuming right now we're in year 2, because your presentation, well, the one that I had before, because you started your corporation 2 years ago, was from 2024. So at what point are you now?
So we have two things happening. So that is why you see the 2024 numbers, because it's based on that initial pilot for Lake Charlotte. So now what we are working on are the final verifications. I think it's in one of the slides that I have, maybe not on this one. We're expecting, we had a bunch, all of our protocol and paperwork and deed restrictions getting finalized through our legislative process, which adds time, was just wrapped up for our expansion projects in like September or so. So we had to get an extension from CFC on that. And we're expecting those verifications in December. So after that, I expect that at that point, we would officially start the credit generation in January 2026, let's just say, for those 4 new sites.
Thank you. I have here a comment or question from Philip Duran. This is great, seeing lots of similarities to some of our existing work and future goals at City of Austin. I'm curious about the transactions and economics after the city forest credits are created. Do you know the average selling price Atlanta is able to get per credit ton? Who are your typical buyers? Really exciting stuff. I love that, Philip.
Yeah, that is what we are working. That's the process we're working through right now. And so we are actually working, we have been in partnership with a firm called Sustainable Capital Advisors, led by Trenton Allen and his team. And so they have also been working with my office on, just like their name says, the sustainable capital, sort of innovative financing mechanisms. And so as we were going down the carbon credits path in parallel, we had been working with Sustainable Capital Advisors, as well as an organization called Solar Stewards. which focuses on social RECs, so social renewable energy credits. And so they have built a marketplace of buyers, corporations essentially who are willing to pay a premium on sort of per ton cost and these things because they know, because it is built into Solar Steward's model, that if you come into their marketplace, that the dollars you generate are going to be reinvested back into community directed, community facing projects. So we've been working with sustainable capital advisors and solar stewards on the same path for our renewable energy credits, and the same path, and enlisted sustainable capital advisors help with city forest credits as well. And been getting some support from city forest credits on just advice on how we build out this part. So more to come on that when we actually enter. I think I mentioned, we've estimated for Lake Charlotte that, we think we've estimated from like 1 million to 1.2 million that we could possibly get from the sale of those. I think it's like 92,000 credits from Lake Charlotte Nature Preserve. That was some numbers we put in our legislation like 2 years ago as estimates. Landscape here, obviously lots of things have changed. So I'm sure I will get questions about this in 2026 as we go forward, and really start to dive into, okay, how do we sell these things and who can we sell them to? Interestingly, FIFA is starting to come into play for this. We are a FIFA host city. We'll have 8 games here in Atlanta. And we know that some of our partners, including our venue, Mercedes-Benz Stadium, has been looking at some innovative models around renewable energy credits. They've been having conversations with solar stewards as well. We have like 500 top companies, headquarters within Georgia and within a small like Delta, some of these places where it may be a little different from, somebody might be interested in partnering with. Of course, we have to go through all procurement. So there's a lot of different avenues we're going to be able to go with the sale that would impact. The reason I'm not saying any other number than sort of what we estimated a couple of years ago is because it's just going to completely depend on, some of these avenues that we're able to take or not take.
Thank you, Chandra. And I love how you tied it also to these big events like the World Cup, in which sometimes you take it on because it's very economically beneficial, but at the same time, it puts so much strain into cities that it's it's a very, very difficult decision to accept or not these type of events in our city. So if we know that there are other ways in which this investment can help our cities like this one, I think that's a great opportunity. And also, tied to what you were mentioning, I wanted to ask, how do you ensure that the revenues from the carbon credit markets are reinvested in more conservation initiatives or in these other programs that you were mentioning around communities?
Yeah, so that's written into any document, our original authorizing legislation just to go into the agreement with city forest credits. You brought up, Susanna, just the model that city forest credits has with the focus on environmental justice and those co-benefits. One is just partner alignment. 2, we have written that into all of our legislative documents, into our, and when I say written at all, that these dollars will be used to continue to reinvest in projects. Of course, that portion of the revenue that is going to Department of Parks and Recreation is focused on the maintenance and stewardship. I mentioned we had a lot of conversations with CFC around their guidelines where parks. It's like, okay, can we use it for trail? And it's like, yeah, you could use it for a trail, but not signage. Or, you know, there's lots of different things like that we had to lay out. The 40% of revenue that we will keep within the Mayor's Office of Sustainability and Resilience is going into that Sustainable Projects Fund. And that fund was created to be a revolving loan fund to support sustainable projects. So even just by nature of the account that we are going to be directing the revenue in the city, all of those mechanisms have community benefits, community directed projects built into that. And that is also, as I mentioned in the beginning, a baseline for our office and how we prioritize projects based on community benefit and municipal innovation demonstration opportunities.
This is really helpful, Chandra. Thank you so much for sharing all of your experience around this topic. I would like to read again Philip's comment because I want to make some additions there. It says, thanks for that. Really appreciate the detail. Certainly, we've seen the price of carbon credits fluctuate since the beginning of COVID, which I'm sure, and it will probably continue fluctuating. We also participate in city forest credits, which Philip, for all of you attending, is from the city of Austin. I think I'll follow up with an email after the call if that's all right. And
yeah.
As Monica mentioned, our program is coming towards an end, but we are very lucky that the evolution of the IURC program, the EU Cities Gateway project, has also a focus on nature-based solutions. So I'm sure that we will be covering this topic. And as you know, we would love to facilitate these connections and these conversations. So also, if you would like to have a follow-up around this webinar, please let me know. Please contact us. If you can put in the chat our emails so that we hear from what you are interested in, and we ensure that the evolution of the program will keep on covering these topics and that you're invited to these conversations. And just to end, I wanted to mention we will be, as I mentioned in the beginning, putting the presentation and the fact sheet and the recording on our website. You will probably be able to see it there by Monday. The fact sheet will take a little bit more time as we are making sure that we're addressing the most important aspects of the conversations that we've had today. And we will be very grateful if you can answer a survey. As I mentioned, we're evolving towards this new program, and all of your feedback will feed into making the new program a lot better and addressing your needs. So thank you so much for joining us today. And Leslie, also thank you so much for sharing all of your experience with the City of Toronto, and hopefully we can see this happening in many other cities.
Terrific.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Chandra.
Thank you, everyone.